What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another weekly news video. Today we're going to touch on two topics in particular. There might be some Patrick Mahomes stuff towards the end, but we'll cover PSA and something they're trying to do to stop scammers, and then also an update from eBay regarding that scammer video I put out a few days ago. But before we get to eBay, we'll touch on PSA very quickly because they've brought back their blue labels for in-person autographs and for autographs that have been authenticated by them. And I think this is an important step in them trying to stop some of this scumbag and scammer behavior that we've talked about on this channel for a number of months now, for a number of years actually. For those of you that are not aware, basically PSA are bringing back this blue label for those autographed cards. And it sort of says over here where if it's a blue label, it means only the autograph was authenticated. If it's red, it means the card was also authenticated. Now, blue labels have been around for a long time. I don't quite recall when PSA stopped doing them for autos, but they did. And what that sort of meant was that you'd have cards in red labels that looked like this, where it had an in-person autograph on there, but it was labeled as just a card. And that basically meant that PSA didn't authenticate the card itself. And this was obviously a huge issue because people would see the red label and inherently think, well, the card is genuine. But what some people sort of caught on to the fact of was that you could submit a fake card, get an athlete to sign it, right? Get an athlete to sign it, then submit it, and PSA would still slab it, but they'd label it as a card or a trading card. And the regulars will recall that we actually spoke about this for Steph Curry quite a lot because a number of his rookie cards were faked that he then signed, that they then sent into PSA. It was put into, one of these red labels that just said card or trading card, and they'd often sell for cheaper prices because most people knew they were fake based on how PSA labeled them as an example. But some unsuspecting buyers wouldn't know that. They would, buy it and then try and send it back into PSA, or they'd try and crack it open to then get a card grade also put on there, then basically get burned because the card itself was fake. And like we talked to in those videos, this is a big loophole from PSA because, people can say, well, they need to do their own research, but at the same time, PSA has an obligation to protect customers from themselves. And, even though customers should be doing their research, from their perspective, it's not a good look for them that, fake cards are ending up in their slabs and sort of buyers are getting burned because of their own incompetence. So them bringing back this blue label is there to try and fix some of that sort of stuff where those Steph Curry cards now will go into a blue label because the card wasn't authenticated because the card was fake. PSA will say it's a trading card in the top left or a card like it says over here or a sticker. It'll be in a blue label. Then people might start asking the question a bit more of, well, why is this Curry card in a blue label, right? If they weren't aware of why it was, just labeled as that in the first place, they'll now more clearly be able to ask the question because they'll say why it's blue. They'll then do their research and then find out, as opposed to saying, well, why is it trading card, etc. It's just less likely for them to fall into the trap. Now, as I said over here, wouldn't this be reintroducing? Because some people think it's them doing it for the first time. Like I opened with, PSA have done blue labels for a number of years. I don't know why they stopped or when they stopped, but they did in fact used to do them. I also go on to say over here that I don't think they should even say trading card, to be perfectly honest. I think we also said this back in the Steph Curry videos because, again, people are dumb. People are still going to fall for the fact that they think it's genuine because it's in a PSA slab. I really think that PSA should be labeling those as, reprints or homebrew cards, or like I said over here, unlicensed. They need to do something more than just saying trading card because people are really stupid and they're going to fall for it. So whilst I think this is a really good thing and a really good step in the right direction to stop some of this bullshit from happening, people sending in fake cards with autos on them and people getting confused, but I don't think it's all the way there. I think PSA definitely do deserve some credit though, because they've actually listened to people complain about this, right? And the same thing can't be said for every business within this, industry, within this hobby. Now, have they done enough? No, I don't think so, but that's besides the point. But, keen to hear your thoughts down below. Now, the next thing I want to touch on, like I said, is relating to this eBay video over here from me. If you guys don't recall, or if you haven't seen it, I had a friend sell a card 4 months ago. 4 months later, the buyer basically disputed it as a fraudulent transaction. And I try to convey that point of how idiotic it was for eBay, but some people sort of missed the point. And we've got an actual response from eBay that I think will help clarify, the people that were confused. Because people basically said, well, Daniel, why are you shocked? Buyers dispute things, the seller has the funds held. Yeah, that's perfectly fine, but that's not the point of what I was trying to say. When a buyer disputes something, it's typically for a mistake the seller made, i.e. they didn't do the right thing or they did something wrong. In this particular case, the seller shipped it with tracking, etc. The buyer got it, they had it for 4 months. The thing they were disputing on was the fact that the transaction itself was fraudulent, i.e. somebody hacked their account or somebody stole their credit card or something, right? They put a dispute in, with their bank contacted eBay then held the funds. Now, in my point of view, that's not one and the same to the seller itself making a mistake with a transaction, i.e. they've labeled it incorrectly, they've damaged the card, didn't disclose damage, they didn't package it well enough, etc., right? They're not the same thing. This is a problem between the bank and eBay that also involves the buyer. So my point of view was the seller should not be held up when it comes to funds in that scenario because he's had his funds held, right? Now, some people pushed back on and said I was an idiot because you know what, a dispute is a dispute. It doesn't matter what it is, it's all the same. Well, actually, you're wrong if you have that mindset, because what eBay have come back to us and said was that this is actually an error within their process. Sellers should not be having their funds held when it is a bank fraudulent dispute, like in this case was. So when people are sort of clapping back at me and saying I'm a dumbass, well, maybe do a bit more research and think about the problem in more detail, and you'll actually understand, well, eBay themselves have said it was wrong. Now, this is based on a conversation with some very senior people out at eBay that are trying to rectify this situation. But again, whether that's true from them or not is left to be determined. Like, they could just be saying that for this one particular instance, because also, like I found out after recording that video, a number of people in the comments said the same thing happened to them. So it looks like it's a pretty big problem for eBay, if it is in fact a problem, or they're just saying that to my mate in order to try and get him to sort of shut up and, squash the issue quietly. But for now, we've got word from them that it is an error. Sellers should not be held out of funds when this sort of stuff happens. It's a mistake within their process that they're trying to fix. And for now, we just have to take their word for it. But I wanted to give that update, like I said, because, some people thought it should be treated the same as every other dispute. That is completely incorrect because the seller has done nothing wrong in this instance. Other disputes, the seller might not do something wrong, but the person complaining is complaining about something that the seller, could have done, right? They might be lying about it, but it has to do something with how the seller sold the card, shipped the card, described the card, listed the card, all that kind of thing. This particular issue has nothing to do with the seller, and it seems eBay agrees. Whether or not they fix that issue or not is left to be determined, but let's sort of see what happens next. Now, I think I mentioned Patrick Mahomes in the intro, but there's a video here, a YouTube short, that I really want you guys to watch because it's an important one and one that seems to have gone under the radar. I've done a number of videos on this, but it relates to some, patch swapped cards, and one of which was this rookie patch order of Patrick Mahomes. The one on top, if I remember correctly, is the one that was in fact patch swapped. It was a 1-of-1 laundry tag, but it's ended up in a BGS slab. And I think it's an important one because, like I said, it's sort of gone under the radar in terms of this issue, and just realizing that I've got the same shirt on as I did in this video. But you can sort of see here, I'm overlaying the two cards that it was patched up from the laundry tag, and it is in fact the same card, but this is, one of those things that's gone under the radar. So given that it's a Super Bowl, given that Patrick Mahomes literally just minutes ago won his third Super Bowl, they've gone back to back, I thought it was good to remind you all of this because it's something that we need to sort of get more eyes on, and not just because it's my video, but it's because it's a big issue, right? And it doesn't seem that BGS has done anything about this, and I think we need a response from the likes of BGS. We need a response from the likes of Panini to put the word out there that this card itself is fake. And you can sort of see here, I've done like 5 or 6 videos on this because what sort of happened was you basically had a lot of these duplicate cards shop at the same time. They all ended up selling on PWCC, or most of them did. They were all in BGS slabs, and then through a bit more research, it very much looked like they were all submitted by the same person to BGS. And I've tried contacting them. I've got no response, which is why we need the eyes on this, like I said, because it is a huge problem. How many other things did this guy patch swap that we don't currently know about that are also in BGS slabs? And the fact that they've gone completely quiet on the situation really does concern me because they have an opportunity here to actually catch this person. And like I said, I've done, 5 or 6 videos, and you're talking about multiple 1-of-1s. I think there's some Lamar Jackson 1-of-1 RPAs in there. There's a few others as well, but it's just crazy how many sort of end up, and it's quite difficult to try and find out, whether they were all patch swapped. But the one thing we sort of can confirm, like I said, is they've all been submitted by the same person, or so it looks like. And some of the ones that have been confirmed to be patch swaps have these dodgy looking NFL shields within them. And the other duplicates that have shown up also have these dodgy looking, NFL shields, which tells me that they were also patch swapped, which is where my theory goes in the original video. But, I think it's really important to check them all out because, like I said, if this sort of patch swapping has been occurring, BGS have a lot to answer for. And we've got an answer here for them, but they're not giving us a response back, and they're not doing enough. So please do check out that short. Let me know your thoughts. Please share it. It's a very important one. I also have it pinned on my Instagram. Again, I'm not talking about this just because it's my video. It's an important, thing to talk about. The fact that the hobby's become, so crazy when it comes to money that people are willing to patch swap 1-of-1s for that marginal difference of more profit, right? The fact that that happens is crazy to me, because it's like, guys, how greedy do you want to be? And if people are sort of willing to risk it on a one-of-one, who knows how pervasive some other issues are within this space. And the reason why I want to talk about it again is because, it's a Super Bowl, weekend, obviously. So this is a Patrick Mahomes card. It might show up for sale again. And if you do see it for sale, you gotta let people know that it's patch swapped. So, as always, guys, please share your thoughts down in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video. It went a bit longer than what I thought, but again, I try to do my best, guys, but sometimes I ramble. So, as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.